combating crime, the power to stop and search members of the public, is one of the most controversial aspects of British policing.
In England and Wales, the use of it has more than halved in the past 5 years, but in an exclusive interview, one of England's most senior police chiefs has told this programme that he believes the drop in stop and search has led to a rise in knife crime. Tim Muffet has more.
Every time I go down, people walking past like it's just a normal day, but that's where my life ended, where his life ended. He was at college, he was studying law. It's just so horrible.
On the same street in Leicester where Amy's son Tyler was stabbed to death in 2015, Sean was attacked 1 month before.
They stabbed me once in my back, which went straight into my artery. If I didn't survive, this could be my mum sitting here, feeling exactly how Amy feels now.
Amy and Sean believe jail sentences for knife possession should be longer and that police should be stopping and searching more people more often.
If the stop and search was, more present, then I believe my son will still be here today.
Very angry. I can see it in my eyes. Yeah. This has got to stop. This knife thing's got to stop.
Across England and Wales, police are stopping and searching far fewer people than they used to. In 2011, there were more than 100,000 stop and searches. According to the most recent Home Office figures, that number's now dropped by 65%.
Those figures relate to searches for offensive weapons. Since 2011, overall knife crime has fallen, but in the past 2 years, it's gone up by almost 13%.
Stop and search, legally done, is absolutely a vital part of our armoury. So we should be doing more of it.
Like all police chiefs, Mike Barton was told by the Home Office in 2014 that stop and search needed reform. It should be intelligence-led, more effectively targeted.
Do you think there is a link between a national decrease in stop and search and a recent increase in knife crime?
We have not done any hard science to say that there is a direct link. However, we're all bright people and we can all work it out, and you've got to say that it's a reasonable hypothesis.
As part of the search, I'm going to have to search an area.
West Midlands Police Training Centre and a stop and search exercise for officers. This force believes fewer searches can be just as effective.
It's absolutely not about numbers. Since 2011-2012, we have reduced the amount of stop and searches that we conduct, but the arrest rate from that remains exactly the same. So it would appear now that we are targeting the right people, intelligence-led searches. What grounds have we got to search?
The Home Office says it supports stop and search when carried out properly, and that there's no proven link between the number of searches and levels of knife crime. But as a police tactic, it remains controversial. Tim Muffet, BBC News.
Very interesting to see all of that and hear from families as well. Joining us now is Zubaida Haque, who's from the Race Equality think tank, the Running Need Trust. Morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. We heard Mike Barton there talking about it being a vital part of the police armoury. Would you agree with that?
I'm sure it is in terms of policing. I'm sure that they have their own motivations for stop and search, and in certain instances it works. I think the bigger question here is, actually there are two questions. One, is it an effective strategy for addressing knife crime and the causes of knife crime? And two, and perhaps it's as important, is what are the side effects? What's the counterproductive effect of stop and search in terms of the impact on the communities that it focuses on?
I suppose it's which one of those you give more weight to, isn't it? Yes, stop and search numbers come down if knife crime goes up. And do you see that correlation?
Well, I mean, you're talking to a researcher and a statistician, and what I would say is that correlations are very complicated in the sense that if you just say stop and search, when stop and search goes down, knife crime goes up, then people automatically assume that those two are connected. But of course, we live in a society where there's a lot more going on. And actually, you have to ask broader questions about what else is going on in society. Now, first of all, knife crime is a symptom of violence that's going up as well. And we need to talk about, we need to think about that as well. the other thing is there's been big cuts. There's been big cuts in youth services since 2010. I think approximately £400 million has been cut from youth services. And there's been big cuts, as we've heard from the elections, in policing. And so you have to ask, has that had an impact also on crime and on knife crime? Because knife crime is, as I've said, a reflection of violence per se, of crime per se. So we need to look at the wider context of that. But the other thing you have to ask, we have to keep going back to the fact that stop and search may be good in particular instances. So it may be good in terms of, sorry, let me just go back. There are approximately two main motivations why people carry knives. One of them is for status. Actually, that's a less important reason. The major reason young people carry knives is for protection. Now, stop and search is quite good at addressing status-related reasons for carrying knives. Because if you take away someone's knife then and say, I'm taking it away, or you get put into prison for 5 years, they kind of think, you know what, street cred's not worth it. I'd rather just get rid of the knife. But if you take away a knife, and this is the majority of the reason, this is the dominant reason that young people carry knives, if you take away a knife from someone who's doing it to protect themselves because they fear for their safety, because they fear being victimized, to be honest, they're likely to go and just get another weapon. So a knife, if you like, is a weapon of choice. You take that away, they'll either get another knife or another weapon. So in that sense, stop and search doesn't really address the issue.
I know. I mean, we talked to somebody who'd been stabbed in that report. We talked to another young lad who'd been stopped and searched, and he said, didn't he, that it could be done in better ways. What do you say to those communities where young people are dying, particularly in London, aren't they?
Yes.
Because of this crime. What do you say to those communities about how you stop it? If stop and search is not necessarily a good tool, as you're saying.
It's not that it's a good tool. It depends on how it's used. It's a tool, and I think that's what I would say to the Chief Constable, which is it's a tool. Actually, there are other tools. Policing per se, I think stop and search is about policing, isn't it? And actually, what we have to think about is, for instance, community policing, which is a much more gentle way of working with communities, of building trust with communities, of not seeing communities, of individual young black boys as suspects. Community policing actually has been shown to be a much more effective crime prevention, if you like. You're working grassroots level, you're getting intelligence from the community, parents trust you, and most importantly, young people trust you. And young people need to be able to trust police to look after their safety. Because if they believe that the police are looking after their safety, then they won't feel that they need to protect themselves. And I think that's the crux of the issue here, which is that they fear for their own safety, which is why they carry knives.
So much to talk about. Zubaida Haque, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
It's 19 minutes past 8. We're a little late for the weather, but, understandably,